Do you know why Marcus Aurelius woke up ready to conquer an empire while most people wake up exhausted and drained? The secret wasn't in the morning, but in the 12 specific practices he did every single night before sleep. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoics already knew that the difference between waking up unstoppable or waking up defeated is decided in the final hours of your day. While the modern world teaches you to chase motivation in the morning, the ancient philosophers revealed that true power comes from what you do with your mind before you close your eyes. These 12 nighttime practices transformed emperors, philosophers, and warriors into mentally unbeatable individuals, and today you're going to discover exactly how to apply them in your life to wake up every single day with a bulletproof mindset. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Get comfortable and relax. Let's begin. Tonight is not like other nights. Tonight, you have chosen something different. You have chosen to end your day not with endless scrolling, not with worry consuming your thoughts, not with the weight of everything undone pressing against your chest. Tonight, you have chosen wisdom. You have chosen the ancient path of the Stoics, those remarkable souls who discovered that true power does not come from controlling the world around us, but from mastering the world within us. And what they understood, what they practiced every single evening before closing their eyes, holds the secret to waking up not just rested, but unstoppable. Think about this for a moment. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world, did not end his days surrounded by luxury and distraction. He ended them in reflection, in discipline, in the quiet cultivation of his inner fortress. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, found more freedom in his evening practices than most free men ever know. Seneca, amid the chaos of political life and the constant threat of death, discovered peace in the ritual of nighttime contemplation. These were not men who stumbled into greatness. They built it, brick by brick, thought by thought, night after night. And now, as the world grows quiet and the day releases its grip on you, you can follow in their footsteps. You can adopt the 12 practices that Stoics have used for over 2,000 years to transform their nights into preparation for triumph, their sleep into a forge where resilience is built, their final waking thoughts into seeds of unstoppable strength. This is not about perfection. This is about practice. This is not about becoming someone else. This is about becoming more fully yourself, the version of you that has always been there, waiting beneath the noise and exhaustion, waiting for you to remember who you truly are. The Stoics knew something that we have forgotten in our modern rush. They knew that the hours before sleep are sacred. They are the bridge between who you were today and who you will be tomorrow. What you do in these hours, what you think, what you release, what you cultivate, this determines everything, because the mind does not simply shut off when you close your eyes. It continues working, processing, integrating. And if you fill it with worry, with regret, with the poison of resentment or the paralysis of fear, then you wake up already defeated. But if you fill it with wisdom, with acceptance, with clarity and purpose, then you wake up ready to face anything. So let us begin. Let us walk together through these 12 practices, not rushing, not forcing, simply exploring what the Stoics discovered. And as we move through each one, allow yourself to feel it, to let it settle into you like water soaking into dry earth. You do not need to remember everything. You do not need to take notes or try hard to apply it all at once. Simply listen, simply be here, and trust that what you need will find its way into your heart. The first practice the Stoics embraced every night was the evening review, what Seneca called the examination of the day. But this was not the harsh judgment we so often inflict upon ourselves, that cruel voice that catalogues every failure and mistake. No, this was something different. This was an honest, compassionate look at the day that passed, not to punish yourself, but to learn. Seneca wrote that he would lie down each night and ask himself 3 questions. What bad habit did I heal today? What vice did I resist? In what way am I better? These questions were not designed to make him feel inadequate. They were designed to make him conscious, aware, alive to his own growth. Imagine for a moment that you adopted this practice tonight. As you lie here, instead of letting your mind race through tomorrow's worries or replay today's embarrassments, you pause, you breathe. You ask yourself gently, where did I show courage today, even in a small way? Where did I choose patience when impatience was easier? Where did I act with integrity, with kindness, with wisdom? And then, just as importantly, where did I stumble? Where did I react instead of respond? Where did I let fear or anger or pride drive my actions? But here is the crucial part. When you see where you stumbled, you do not attack yourself. You observe. You understand. You say, yes, I see that. Tomorrow I will do better. And then you let it go. This practice is not about achieving perfection. The Stoics never sought perfection because they understood that perfection is not human. What they sought was progress, constant, steady, humble progress. Every night they measured themselves not against some impossible standard, but against who they were yesterday. Am I a little wiser? Am I a little more disciplined? Am I a little more free? If the answer is yes, even by the smallest measure, then the day was a success. And if the answer is no, if today was harder, if you fell back into old patterns, that too is valuable information. That too is part of the path. Marcus Aurelius, in his private journal that we now call Meditations, would remind himself constantly of his failures, not to wallow in them, but to stay humble, to remember that he was human, to keep working. He would write things like, you have the power to strip away many superfluous troubles located wholly in your judgment, and to possess a large room for yourself, embracing in thought the whole cosmos. These were not words written for an audience. These were words written in the dark, for himself, to guide himself back to truth when the world tried to pull him into chaos. So tonight, practice this first discipline of the Stoics. Review your day, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Not with shame, but with the desire to grow. Ask yourself the questions that matter, and then, and this is essential, release it all. Let the day go. You have learned what you can from it. Now it belongs to the past, and you belong to this moment, this breath, this opportunity to rest and restore so that tomorrow you can rise again, a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more unstoppable. The second practice the Stoics performed every night might surprise you because it seems, at first, like it would create anxiety rather than peace. They practiced negative visualization. This was not pessimism. This was not dwelling on worst-case scenarios to torture themselves. This was something far more sophisticated, far more powerful. It was a way of preparing the mind, of removing the shock and devastation that comes when life does not go according to plan, because the Stoics understood a fundamental truth. Life will not go according to plan. Loss will come. Failure will visit. People you love will disappoint you or leave. Your health will falter. Your plans will crumble. This is not negativity. This is reality. And the question is not whether these things will happen, but whether you will be ready when they do. So each night, the Stoic would spend a few moments imagining loss. Not in a morbid way, but in a preparatory way. What if I lost my wealth tomorrow? Could I still find peace? What if someone I love became ill? Could I still be strong for them and for myself? What if my plans fail? Could I adapt, adjust, find another way? What if I faced criticism or rejection? Could I maintain my integrity and not be shaken? By asking these questions before going to sleep, the Stoic was not inviting disaster. He was removing its power. He was saying to the universe, I know that you are unpredictable. I know that nothing is guaranteed, and I am ready, not because I am hard or cold, but because I have made peace with the nature of existence. There is a beautiful paradox here that the Stoics discovered. When you regularly contemplate losing what you have, you stop taking it for granted. You begin to appreciate it more deeply. When you imagine that today might be the last time you see someone you love, you treat them with more kindness, more presence, more gratitude. When you acknowledge that your health could change tomorrow, you take care of yourself today. When you accept that your job might end, your plans might shift, your certainty might dissolve, you stop clinging so desperately. You hold things lightly, lovingly, but not with the grip of fear. Epictetus taught his students to look at everything they cherished and remind themselves, this is not mine to keep forever. When you kiss your child goodnight, remind yourself that they are mortal, that this moment is a gift, not to darken the moment, but to illuminate it, to make it shine with the preciousness it truly has. When you hold your partner, when you enjoy a meal, when you feel healthy and strong, pause and acknowledge. This will not last forever, which is exactly why it is so valuable right now. This practice is not about becoming detached or indifferent. It is about becoming awake. Most people sleepwalk through their lives, assuming that what they have today will be there tomorrow, and then they are shattered when reality reveals otherwise. The Stoic chooses differently. The Stoic opens his eyes. He sees clearly, and because he sees clearly, he is both more grateful and more resilient. He appreciates the good without clinging to it. He faces the difficult without being destroyed by it. He understands that everything is temporary, and that understanding is not a curse. It is a liberation. So tonight, before you drift into sleep, practice this second discipline. Spend just a few moments imagining what you would do if something you rely on was taken away. Not to scare yourself, but to prepare yourself. Not to create anxiety, but to build strength. Ask yourself, if I lost this, could I still be okay? Could I still find meaning? Could I still move forward? And as you ask these questions, you will discover something remarkable. The answer is yes. Yes, you could survive it. Yes, you could adapt. Yes, you have within you a strength that does not depend on circumstances remaining comfortable. And when you know that, truly know it, you become unstoppable, because nothing external can break you. You have already made peace with the worst. Everything else is just life unfolding, and you are ready for all of it. These first two practices, the evening review and negative visualization, form the foundation of the Stoic night. They teach you to learn from the past without being trapped by it, and to prepare for the future without being paralyzed by it. They root you in the present moment, in this breath, in this choice, in this opportunity to grow. And as you continue through the remaining 10 practices, you will find that each one builds on these foundations, creating a structure of inner strength so solid that no storm can topple it. The Stoics did not become unstoppable by accident. They became unstoppable through practice, through ritual, through the conscious choice made every single night to cultivate wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. And now that choice is yours. The third practice that Stoics embraced in the quiet hours before sleep was perhaps one of the most transformative, the practice of gratitude. But this was not the superficial gratitude we often hear about, the kind where you list 3 things you are thankful for and move on. This was deeper. This was a gratitude that penetrated into the marrow of existence, a gratitude that recognized that even in difficulty, even in struggle, there were gifts to be found. The Stoics understood that gratitude was not just a feeling to be experienced when things went well. It was a discipline to be practiced, especially when things went poorly, because it was in those moments that gratitude had the power to transform suffering into meaning. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each night that everything that happened to him was an opportunity. He wrote that even obstacles could be fuel for the fire, that difficulties were not interruptions to his path, but rather the path itself. This was not blind optimism. This was philosophical realism combined with a profound trust in his own capacity to extract value from any situation. When you practice gratitude as the Stoics did, you are not pretending that bad things are good. You are recognizing that even bad things contain lessons, opportunities for growth, chances to practice virtue. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, do not just think about what went well today. Think also about what was difficult and ask yourself, what can I be grateful for, even in that difficulty? Perhaps you had a conflict with someone. Can you be grateful that it showed you where you need to grow in patience or communication? Perhaps you failed at something. Can you be grateful that it revealed where your expectations were unrealistic or where you need to develop new skills? Perhaps you felt lonely or sad. Can you be grateful that these feelings remind you of your humanity, your capacity to feel deeply, your desire for connection? The Stoics practiced what we might call comprehensive gratitude. They were grateful for the obvious blessings, health when they had it, friendship, food, shelter, safety. But they were also grateful for the non-obvious blessings, challenges that made them stronger, enemies that taught them patience, losses that taught them non-attachment, failures that taught them humility. They understood that a life without difficulty would be a life without growth, and growth was what they valued above all else. So they learned to say thank you to everything, to all of it, to the pleasant and the painful, to the easy and the arduous, to the expected and the shocking. Seneca wrote about this extensively. He talked about how poverty could be a gift because it taught you that you needed less than you thought, how exile could be a gift because it freed you from the opinions of those who knew you and allowed you to reinvent yourself, how even illness could be a gift because it taught you the fragility of life and made you more compassionate toward others who suffered. These were not empty words. Seneca faced exile, he faced the threat of death, he faced political betrayal, and still he found things to be grateful for. He found meaning, he found purpose, he found peace. This is the power of gratitude practiced at night. It takes everything that happened during the day, everything you experienced, everything you felt, and it reframes it. It does not deny reality, it does not pretend pain is not pain, but it refuses to let pain be the only story. It insists on finding the other stories within the pain, the stories of resilience, of learning, of becoming more fully human. And when you do this night after night, something remarkable happens. Your entire relationship with life begins to shift. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start feeling like a participant in your own evolution. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? And that shift, that simple shift in perspective, is what makes you unstoppable. Because an unstoppable person is not someone who never faces obstacles. An unstoppable person is someone who knows how to find fuel in every obstacle, who knows how to extract wisdom from every failure, who knows how to be grateful even in the midst of struggle, because they understand that struggle is where character is forged. So as you lie here tonight, practice this third discipline of the Stoics. Let gratitude wash over you, not as a forced exercise, but as a genuine recognition of the richness of your life, all of it, the good and the bad, the easy and the hard, the joyful and the sorrowful. Say thank you to this day. Say thank you to your breath, to your beating heart, to your functioning body. Say thank you to the people who were kind to you and to the people who challenged you. Say thank you to what you accomplished and to what you did not, because it all contributed to who you are becoming. And then, with that gratitude filling your chest, let yourself relax into sleep, knowing that you are not going to bed resentful or bitter or defeated. You are going to bed grateful, rich with lessons, ready to wake up and do it all again with even more wisdom and strength. The fourth practice the Stoics performed each evening was what they called premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils, though that sounds harsher than it truly was. We touched on this earlier with negative visualization, but here we go deeper. This was a specific practice where the Stoic would imagine in detail the worst things that could happen tomorrow, not to manifest them, not to attract them through some misguided law of attraction, but to remove their power to shock and paralyze. The Stoics believed that one of the greatest sources of human suffering was not the events themselves, but the fact that we were unprepared for them. We go through life assuming that everything will be fine, that our plans will work out, that people will behave as we expect, that our health will hold, that our resources will remain stable. And then, when reality intrudes, when things do not go as planned, we collapse. We fall apart. Not because the event itself is unbearable, but because we never prepared ourselves emotionally or psychologically to bear it. So the Stoic, wise and practical, decided to prepare. Each night, before sleep, he would imagine the worst. What if I give my presentation tomorrow and everyone criticizes it? What if I arrive at work and discover I have been let go? What if I reach out to someone I care about and they reject me? What if my health suddenly declines? What if I lose the thing I have been working toward? And then, instead of spiraling into panic, he would ask himself the crucial question: how would I respond with virtue? How would I maintain my integrity, my courage, my wisdom in the face of that difficulty? This is the key difference between catastrophic thinking, which paralyzes, and Stoic premeditatio, which empowers. Catastrophic thinking says, what if this terrible thing happens? And then stops there, leaving you drowning in fear. Stoic premeditatio says, what if this terrible thing happens? And then immediately follows with, how would I handle it? What strengths would I draw upon? What would I do next? By answering those questions before the crisis arrives, you create a psychological blueprint for resilience. You rehearse your response. You remind yourself that you are capable, that you have agency, that no matter what happens, you have the power to choose how you will meet it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. He would remind himself that tomorrow he would encounter rude people, ungrateful people, people who would try to deceive him or use him. He did not do this to become cynical. He did it to remove surprise. He would say to himself, I am prepared for this. I know this is part of being human, part of living in a world with other people. And because I know it, I will not be thrown off balance when it happens. I will not waste energy being shocked or offended. I will simply respond with wisdom and move on. This preparation was not pessimism. It was realism combined with self-trust. Epictetus taught his students the same. He would say, when you go to the bathhouse, prepare yourself. There will be people who splash you, people who shove, people who steal. If you are not prepared, you will be angry all day. But if you go in knowing that these things are possible, even likely, then when they happen, you will simply think, ah, yes, this is what I expected, and you will remain calm. He extended this to everything. When you love someone, know that they are mortal, that they might leave you. When you have wealth, know that it can be lost. When you have reputation, know that it can be destroyed, not to make you paranoid, but to make you resilient. Tonight, practice this fourth discipline. Think about tomorrow. What could go wrong? Not in a vague, anxious way, but in a specific, practical way. And for each thing that could go wrong, ask yourself, how would I respond? What would I do? What virtues would I call upon? And as you do this, you will feel something shift. The fear will begin to dissolve because you will realize that you have a plan, that you are not helpless, that no matter what tomorrow brings, you will be able to handle it. You might not handle it perfectly, you might stumble and struggle, but you will handle it because you are stronger than you think and because you have rehearsed your strength. This is how the Stoics became unshakable. They did not wait for disaster to figure out how they would respond. They decided in advance. They prepared their minds. They fortified their spirits. And when the storms came, and the storms always come, they were ready. They did not fall apart. They stood firm. They adapted. They endured. And then they moved forward, perhaps wounded, perhaps tired, but never defeated, because defeat is not what happens to you. Defeat is giving up on yourself. And a Stoic never gives up on themselves because they have promised themselves every single night that no matter what happens, they will meet it with courage, with wisdom, with integrity. And that promise, renewed every evening, is what makes them unstoppable. The fifth practice the Stoics engaged in every night was the conscious release of things beyond their control. This was the discipline of surrender, but not the surrender of defeat. This was the surrender of wisdom, the recognition that there are vast territories of existence where your will simply does not reach, and that pouring energy into those territories is not just futile. It is actively harmful to your peace and effectiveness. Epictetus began his teaching with this distinction, the famous dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, he said, and some things are not. Up to us are our judgments, our intentions, our desires, our responses. Not up to us are our bodies, our reputations, our possessions, everything external. But knowing this intellectually is one thing. Practicing it, truly releasing your grip on what you cannot control, that is where the transformation happens. And the Stoics knew that the best time to practice this release was at night, in those quiet moments before sleep when the day's struggles could be consciously set down. Think about how much energy you spend every day trying to control things that are not yours to control. You worry about what someone thinks of you, but you cannot control their thoughts. You stress about whether your project will succeed, but you cannot control all the variables that determine success. You fear illness, aging, loss, but you cannot stop the body from being vulnerable or time from passing. All of this worry, all of this fear, all of this mental and emotional strain, it accomplishes nothing except to rob you of peace. The outcome will be what it will be regardless of your worry. So why worry? The Stoic answer is, there is no reason to worry about what you cannot control. Save your energy for what you can control. Save it for your effort, your attitude, your virtue. Everything else, let it go. Release it. Trust that the universe will unfold as it must, and trust that you will be able to handle whatever comes because you have control over the only thing that truly matters, your response. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, practice this fifth discipline. Go through your day and identify what you have been trying to control that is not actually in your control. Have you been trying to control someone else's behavior? Let it go. Have you been trying to control the outcome of a situation that depends on many factors beyond you? Let it go. Have you been trying to control the past, replaying it endlessly in your mind as if thinking about it enough could change it? Let it go. The past is done. It is no longer in anyone's control. Have you been trying to control the future, planning and plotting and worrying as if you could eliminate all uncertainty? Let it go. The future is not yet here. It is not yours to control. What remains when you release all of this? What remains is the present moment. What remains is your breath, your awareness, your capacity to choose how you will be right now. And that, the Stoics discovered, is enough. That is more than enough. Because when you focus all of your energy on what is actually within your power, you become extraordinarily effective. You stop wasting time on futile worries and start investing time in meaningful action. You stop being paralyzed by fear of outcomes and start being liberated by commitment to process. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the author of your own character. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events, and that when you realize this, you find strength. He wrote it not because he had no struggles, but because he had enormous struggles. He was emperor during wars, plagues, betrayals, constant crises. He could not control any of it. What he could control was how he thought about it, how he responded to it, whether he remained virtuous and wise in the midst of chaos. And by focusing on that, by letting go of everything else, he found a peace that no external circumstance could disturb. Seneca spoke of this too. He said that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of what we fear never happens. Most of what we worry about never comes to pass. And even when difficulties do arise, they are rarely as unbearable as we imagined. So why torture yourself in advance? Why spend tonight worrying about tomorrow when tomorrow has not yet arrived and may never arrive in the form you fear? Release it. Trust yourself. Trust that when tomorrow comes, if it brings difficulty, you will rise to meet it. You do not need to fight the battle tonight. Tonight is for rest. Tonight is for letting go. This practice of release is not about becoming passive. It is about becoming focused. It is about directing your energy where it can actually make a difference. Think of it like this. You are carrying a heavy backpack full of stones. Some of those stones are your responsibilities, things you can and should carry. But many of those stones are worries, fears, attempts to control the uncontrollable. Those stones are dead weight. They serve no purpose except to exhaust you. So tonight, open the backpack. Take out the stones that are not yours to carry. Set them down. Feel how much lighter you become. Feel how much more energy you have for what actually matters. The sixth practice the Stoics performed each night was the intentional remembering of their mortality. This might sound morbid, but it was actually one of the most life-affirming practices they had. The Stoics called it memento mori, remember you must die. They did not do this to be depressing. They did it to wake up, to stop sleepwalking through their days, to stop postponing what mattered, to stop taking for granted the people they loved and the time they had. Death, for the Stoics, was not the enemy. Denial of death was the enemy, because when you live as if you have infinite time, you waste time. You put off important conversations. You delay pursuing what truly matters to you. You tolerate situations that do not serve you. You forget to be grateful for the simple fact that you are alive. But when you remember, truly remember, that your time is limited, that this body will one day stop, that there will be a last breath, a last sunrise, a last conversation with someone you love, everything changes. Suddenly, today matters. Suddenly, this moment is precious. Suddenly, you cannot afford to waste your energy on resentment or pettiness or fear. Suddenly, you want to live fully, deeply, authentically, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of his mortality. He wrote that you could leave life right now, so let that determine what you do and say and think. He did not mean this in a despairing way. He meant it as a call to action, a reminder to live with urgency and purpose, to not squander the gift of existence on trivial pursuits or toxic emotions. Seneca wrote entire letters about this. He talked about how most people do not live, they merely exist. They postpone living until retirement, until they achieve some goal, until circumstances are perfect. But circumstances are never perfect, and retirement may never come, and the goal once achieved simply reveals another goal. So they reach the end of life never having truly lived, never having prioritized what mattered, never having said what needed to be said or done what called to their soul. Seneca urged his readers to live as if each day might be their last, not in a reckless way, but in an intentional way. To spend time with people who matter, to do work that has meaning, to cultivate virtue, to be fully present. Tonight, practice this sixth discipline. Lie here and acknowledge the simple, unavoidable truth. You will die. Not to frighten yourself, but to liberate yourself. Your time here is limited. You do not know how much you have. It could be decades, it could be years, it could be far less. And because you do not know, the only sane response is to treat each day as the gift it is. To stop waiting for perfect conditions before you start living. To stop holding grudges that waste your precious energy. To stop doing things that do not align with your values just because you think you are supposed to. To stop hiding your true self because you fear judgment. None of that matters in the face of mortality. What matters is, did you live authentically? Did you love well? Did you grow? Did you contribute something meaningful? Did you become more fully yourself? When you remember death each night, you do not become morbid or despairing. You become focused. You become intentional. You strip away the superfluous and focus on the essential. You stop sweating the small stuff because you realize how how truly small it is. You stop fearing judgment or failure because you understand that the only real failure is never trying, never risking, never stepping into the arena of your own life. The Stoics were not afraid of death because they understood that death was natural, inevitable, and actually a great teacher. Death taught them how to live. It showed them what mattered. It gave them the courage to be fully themselves, because if this life is all we have and we do not know how long we have it, then there is no reason to waste a single moment being less than who we truly are. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, hold this awareness gently. You are alive right now. You are breathing. Your heart is beating. You have made it through another day, and tomorrow is not guaranteed, which means tomorrow is precious beyond measure. Do not take it for granted. Do not waste it. Wake up with the knowledge that you have been given another chance, another day, another opportunity to live fully, to love deeply, to grow continuously. This is what the Stoics meant by waking up unstoppable. Not that you would be invincible or face no obstacles, but that you would be so clear about what matters, so focused on living aligned with your deepest values, so awake to the preciousness of existence that nothing could derail you from your purpose. You would know why you are here, you would know what you are about, and you would spend your energy accordingly. The seventh practice that Stoics embraced each night was the cultivation of virtue as the ultimate goal. But before we dive into this, we must understand what the Stoics meant by virtue, because it is not what many modern people think. Virtue for the Stoics was not about following rules or being conventionally good or earning approval from others. Virtue was excellence of character. It was becoming the best version of yourself, the most fully realized human being you could be. And they broke this down into 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Every night, the Stoic would reflect on these virtues and ask themselves, did I embody them today? Where did I succeed? Where did I fall short? How can I do better tomorrow? Wisdom, the first virtue, is the ability to see clearly, to distinguish between what truly matters and what does not, to understand the nature of reality and your place in it. Wisdom is what allows you to make good decisions, to know when to act and when to wait, to recognize what is in your control and what is not. The Stoic cultivated wisdom by studying philosophy, by reflecting on experience, by questioning their own assumptions, by learning from both success and failure. Every night they would ask themselves, was I wise today? Did I pause before reacting? Did I seek to understand before judging? Did I question my initial impressions? Did I learn something new? Courage, the second virtue, is the strength to face difficulty, fear, pain, and uncertainty without losing your integrity. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting rightly despite fear. It is speaking truth when silence would be easier. It is standing up for what you believe in even when you stand alone. It is facing loss, failure, rejection, and continuing forward anyway. The Stoic cultivated courage by deliberately putting themselves in challenging situations, by practicing discomfort, by reminding themselves that external things cannot truly harm them as long as they maintain their character. Every night they would ask themselves, was I courageous today? Did I do something that scared me? Did I speak up when I wanted to stay silent? Did I face a difficult truth? Justice, the third virtue, is treating others with fairness, kindness, and respect. It is recognizing that we are all part of a larger whole, that we are interconnected, that what affects one affects all. Justice means contributing to the common good, being a positive presence in other people's lives, not causing unnecessary harm, keeping your word, being reliable and trustworthy. The Stoic cultivated justice by practicing empathy, by considering other perspectives, by acting with generosity and compassion, by remembering that everyone is fighting their own battle. Every night they would ask themselves, was I just today? Did I treat others as I would want to be treated? Did I help someone? Did I act with kindness even when it was not easy? Temperance, the fourth virtue, is self-control and moderation. It is not being ruled by your impulses, desires, or emotions. It is the ability to say no to excess, to delay gratification, to maintain balance. Temperance means not overindulging in pleasure, not being controlled by anger or lust or greed, not letting your appetites dictate your actions. The Stoic cultivated temperance by practicing restraint, by occasionally denying themselves things they enjoyed to prove they were not enslaved to them, by developing the capacity to sit with discomfort without immediately seeking escape. Every night they would ask themselves, was I temperate today? Did I exercise self-control? Did I resist an impulse that would have been harmful? Did I maintain balance? These four virtues were the North Star for the Stoic. Everything else, wealth, health, pleasure, success, reputation, was considered indifferent. Not unimportant necessarily, but not what ultimately mattered. What mattered was virtue, because virtue is entirely within your control. You can always choose to be wise, courageous, just, and temperate regardless of your circumstances. You can practice these virtues whether you are rich or poor, healthy or sick, praised or criticized, successful or failing. Your virtue is yours. It cannot be taken from you by any external force. It can only be surrendered by you, by your own choices. And this is what made the Stoics unstoppable, because they measured their success not by external outcomes, which are uncertain and uncontrollable, but by internal character, which they could always work on. They could always get better. They could always grow. Even in the worst circumstances, even facing death itself, they could maintain their virtue, their excellence of character. And as long as they did that, they were successful. They were winning. Not winning against others, but winning the only contest that truly matters, the contest to become your best self. Tonight, as you lie here in the darkness, practice this seventh discipline. Reflect on the four virtues. Think about your day through this lens. Where did you demonstrate wisdom? Perhaps you paused before responding to someone who irritated you, choosing understanding over reactivity. Where did you show courage? Perhaps you had a difficult conversation you had been avoiding, or you tried something new despite the risk of failure. Where did you practice justice? Perhaps you were kind to someone who could not repay you, or you gave someone the benefit of the doubt, or you stood up for someone who needed support. Where did you exercise temperance? Perhaps you resisted an urge that would not have served you, or you maintained your composure when you felt like losing it, or you chose the harder right over the easier wrong. Celebrate these moments, not with pride or arrogance, but with quiet satisfaction. You practiced virtue today. You moved closer to being the person you want to be. And where you fell short, where you reacted instead of responded, where fear held you back, where you were unkind or lost control, do not punish yourself. Simply observe it. Name it, understand it, and set your intention to do better tomorrow. This is not about perfection. The Stoics never expected perfection from themselves. They knew they were human, flawed, always works in progress. What they expected was effort, honesty, commitment to growth, and that is all you need to expect from yourself. The eighth practice the Stoics performed each night was perhaps the most practical, preparing for the next day. But this was not the anxious planning that keeps so many people awake, running through worst-case scenarios or trying to control every detail. This was strategic, calm preparation rooted in the understanding that while you cannot control outcomes, you can control your effort and your approach. The Stoic would spend a few moments thinking about the next day, what needed to be done, what challenges might arise, what virtues would be most important to practice. This was not worrying, this was readying. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each morning and evening about the nature of the day ahead. He knew he would encounter difficult people, unexpected obstacles, frustrations. But because he anticipated these things, he was not thrown off when they occurred. He had a plan. Not a rigid plan that would break when reality diverged from it, but a flexible plan rooted in principles. No matter what happens tomorrow, I will remain calm. No matter who I encounter, I will treat them with respect. No matter what obstacles arise, I will face them with creativity and resilience. These commitments were not dependent on circumstances. They were expressions of his character, his virtue, his commitment to being his best self, regardless of external conditions. Seneca wrote about this too. He talked about how most people are reactive, letting the day happen to them, being tossed about by whatever comes their way. But the wise person is proactive. The wise person thinks ahead, not obsessively, but thoughtfully. What is most important for me to accomplish tomorrow? Not everything on my list, because the list is always too long, but what truly matters. If I could only do one thing tomorrow, what would it be? And then, having identified what matters, the Stoic would commit to doing it first, to prioritizing it, to protecting it from all the distractions and urgencies that would inevitably arise. But here is what made this practice different from typical planning. The Stoic did not just plan tasks, he planned his character. He would ask himself, who do I want to be tomorrow? What virtues do I want to embody? What kind of energy do I want to bring to my interactions? How do I want to handle stress or disappointment? By answering these questions in advance, he created a template for his behavior, a guide that would help him stay aligned with his values even when things got difficult. Tonight, practice this 8th discipline. Think about tomorrow. Not everything about tomorrow, just the highlights. What do you need to do? What is most important? What might be challenging? And then ask yourself the deeper questions. Who do I want to be tomorrow? How do I want to show up? What virtues will I need to call upon? If something goes wrong, how do I want to respond? Make these decisions now, while your mind is calm, while you have perspective. Do not wait until you are in the heat of the moment to figure out who you want to be. Decide now. Commit now, and then tomorrow, when the challenges come, you will not have to think about it. You will simply remember your commitment and act accordingly. This is one of the secrets to becoming unstoppable. You do not leave your behavior to chance or mood or circumstances. You decide in advance what kind of person you are going to be, and then you keep that commitment regardless of what happens around you. This is integrity. This is self-mastery. This is the power that comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling yourself. And it is practiced not in the big dramatic moments, but in the quiet moments like this one, lying in bed at night, setting your intention for who you will be when morning comes. The 9th practice the Stoics engaged in every evening was the conscious practice of letting go of resentment and anger before sleep. This was not just for the sake of others, though it did improve their relationships. This was primarily for themselves, because the Stoics understood that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Resentment does not hurt the person you resent. It hurts you. It takes up space in your mind and heart that could be filled with peace. It drains your energy that could be used for growth. It keeps you chained to the past, to the person or situation that hurt you, giving them ongoing power over your emotional state. The Stoic refused this. The Stoic chose freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to not be like the person who hurt you. If someone has been unkind, dishonest, or harmful, the worst thing you can do to yourself is to carry that toxicity forward, letting it poison your own character. The best thing you can do is to release it, to refuse to let their wrongdoing change who you are. This does not mean condoning what they did. It does not mean saying it was okay or that it did not hurt. It means recognizing that you have a choice about what you do with that hurt. You can nurture it, feed it, let it grow until it consumes you, or you can acknowledge it, learn from it, and then release it, choosing to move forward unencumbered. Epictetus taught that when someone wrongs you, they have their own reasons, their own pain, their own confusion. They are acting from their own understanding, limited as it may be. To be angry at them for acting according to their nature is as futile as being angry at a fig tree for producing figs. People do what people do based on who they are and what they believe. Your job is not to control their behavior or punish them with your resentment. Your job is to maintain your own virtue, your own peace, your own clarity, and you cannot do that if you are filled with anger. So each night the Stoic would do a forgiveness practice, not because they were weak or naive, but because they were strong and wise. They would think about anyone who had hurt them or angered them that day, and they would consciously choose to let it go. Sometimes this meant understanding the other person's perspective, recognizing that they were doing the best they could with what they knew. Sometimes it meant accepting that some people are just difficult, just as some days are rainy, and there is no point in taking it personally. Sometimes it meant recognizing their own contribution to the conflict, their own reactivity or sensitivity or misunderstanding. And sometimes it just meant deciding that holding on to the anger was not worth the cost to their own peace. This practice is not easy. Forgiveness, true forgiveness, is one of the most challenging things a human being can do. It requires enormous strength, not weakness. It requires you to lay down your weapons, to stop rehearsing your grievances, to stop fantasizing about revenge or vindication, to stop waiting for an apology that may never come. It requires you to say, I release this, I free myself from this, I choose peace over being right. And that is hard. That goes against every instinct that wants to hold on, wants justice, wants the other person to suffer as you suffered. But the Stoic understood that all of that wanting only creates more suffering for yourself. Tonight, practice this 9th discipline. Think about anyone who hurt you today, anyone who angered you, anyone you are holding resentment toward. It might be something big or something small, it does not matter. What matters is that you are carrying it, and it is weighing you down. Now, lying here in this safe, quiet space, make the decision to put it down. Not because they deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve your peace. Say to yourself, I release this person. I release this anger. I release the need for them to be different or to apologize or to understand. I free myself from this burden. I choose peace. You might need to do this multiple times. Forgiveness is often not a single act, but a repeated choice. You might find the anger returning tomorrow, and you will need to release it again. That is okay. That is part of the practice. Each time you choose release over resentment, you are building your capacity for peace. You are proving to yourself that you are not controlled by others' actions, that you are free. And over time, the anger will lose its grip. The resentment will fade, and you will discover a lightness, a freedom, a power that comes from no longer being chained to the people who hurt you. The 10th practice the Stoics performed every night was the deliberate cultivation of amor fati, the love of fate. This was perhaps the most advanced of all Stoic practices, the culmination of everything else. Amor fati means loving everything that happens, not just accepting it, not just tolerating it, but actually loving it, embracing it, saying yes to it with your whole heart. This seems impossible at first. How can you love pain? How can you love loss? How can you love failure or betrayal or injustice? But the Stoics did not mean you should enjoy these things or pretend they are pleasant. They meant you should recognize that these things are part of your fate, part of your story, and that your story, all of it, is what makes you who you are. Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoicism, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." This is what the Stoics practiced. They trained themselves to look at everything that happened to them and say, this is exactly what I needed. Not in a naive way, not pretending everything is good, but in a profound way that recognized that everything, even the painful things, especially the painful things, are opportunities for growth, for learning, for becoming stronger and wiser. Marcus Aurelius wrote that everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, endure it and stop complaining. If it is not endurable, you will not be around to complain anyway. But more than that, he said to welcome it, to see it as necessary, as part of the cosmic order, as exactly what the universe needed to happen at this moment. And if the universe needed it to happen, then so did you. Your job is not to resist or resent, but to find the way to work with it, to grow from it, to let it make you better rather than bitter. Seneca talked about this too. He said that difficulties are not obstacles to our path, they are the path. Every challenge you face is forging you, shaping you, revealing what you are made of. If life were easy, you would remain soft, untested, weak. But life is not easy, and that is the gift. The difficulty is the gift. The struggle is the gift. Not because it feels good, but because it makes you strong. And once you understand this, once you truly internalize it, everything changes. You stop resisting your life and start embracing it. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, how can I grow from this? You stop being a victim and become a student. You stop feeling defeated and start feeling engaged, alive, challenged in a way that calls forth your best self. Tonight, practice this 10th discipline. Think about everything that happened today, everything you experienced, the good and the difficult, and instead of judging any of it as bad or wrong or unfair, try saying, this is my fate and I love it. I love all of it. I love the easy parts because they bring me joy. I love the hard parts because they make me strong. I love the confusing parts because they teach me humility. I love the painful parts because they connect me to my humanity. I love all of it because it is mine, because it is my life, because it is the exact set of experiences I need to become who I am meant to be. This is not delusion, this is liberation. When you love your fate, when you embrace everything that comes, you are no longer at war with reality. You are in harmony with it, you flow with it, you dance with it. And that harmony, that flow, that is where true power lives. Not the power to control everything, but the power to meet everything with grace, with courage, with an open heart. That is what it means to be unstoppable. Not that nothing stops you, but that nothing breaks you. Everything that comes you can work with. Everything that happens you can integrate. Everything that tries to knock you down you can use to get back up stronger. The 11th practice the Stoics committed to every evening was the practice of voluntary simplicity and the regular examination of their attachments. This was not about asceticism for its own sake, not about suffering unnecessarily or rejecting all pleasure. This was about freedom. The Stoics understood that every attachment is a potential source of suffering, every possession a potential burden, every desire a potential chain. They did not want to be enslaved by their own preferences and acquisitions. They wanted to be free. And freedom meant being able to lose anything without losing themselves. So periodically, the Stoics would practice living with less. Seneca wrote about this extensively. He recommended that several times a year, you should live for a few days as if you had lost everything. Eat the simplest foods, wear your plainest clothes, sleep on the floor if you have been sleeping in luxury. Do this, he said, not as punishment, but as practice. Practice being okay with less. Practice discovering that you do not actually need all the things you think you need. Practice finding that your happiness, your peace, your sense of self does not depend on external comforts. And once you know this, once you have proven it to yourself, you are free. You can enjoy nice things when you have them, but you are not dependent on them. You can lose them without being destroyed. This practice extended beyond material possessions to relationships, status, identity, all the things we cling to. The Stoic would ask themselves, if I lost this, would I still be okay? If I lost my wealth, my job, my reputation, my role, my relationships, who would I be? Would there still be a self there, a valuable, worthy, capable self? And if the answer was no, if they realized they had built their identity entirely on external things, then they would work to change that. They would cultivate an identity based on character, on virtue, on qualities that could not be taken from them. They would build their sense of worth not on what they had or what others thought of them, but on who they were choosing to be regardless of circumstances. Every night, the Stoic would examine their attachments. What am I clinging to? What am I afraid of losing? And then they would practice loosening that grip. They would visualize loss. They would remind themselves of impermanence. They would say, I am grateful for this, but I do not own it. It is not mine to keep forever. I am simply borrowing it for a time. And when it is time to give it back, I will be able to let it go because I was never truly attached. I was simply enjoying it while it was here. This is the practice of holding things lightly, not rejecting them, not failing to appreciate them, but not clinging to them either, enjoying them fully while they last, and releasing them gracefully when they go. Think about how much suffering comes from attachment. You suffer when you cannot have what you want. You suffer when you lose what you have. You suffer when what you have is threatened. You suffer when others have what you do not. All of this suffering stems from attachment, from the belief that your well-being depends on external things being a certain way. But the Stoic discovers that this is an illusion. Your well-being depends on your character, your virtue, your state of mind, and those are internal. Those are yours. Those cannot be taken unless you surrender them. Tonight, practice this 11th discipline. Look at your life and identify your attachments. What are you holding on to tightly? What are you afraid of losing? It might be a relationship, a job, your health, your youth, your appearance, your possessions, your reputation, your sense of control. Whatever it is, practice loosening your grip, not by pushing it away, but by accepting its impermanence. Say to yourself, I am grateful for this right now. I appreciate it fully. And if it goes, if it changes, if I lose it, I will still be okay. I will adapt. I will find meaning in whatever comes next. My worth is not tied to this external thing. My peace does not depend on keeping it forever. This practice might feel uncomfortable at first. Attachment feels like love, like connection, like security. And loosening attachment can feel like you are being cold or preparing for loss. But actually, this practice deepens your appreciation and presence. When you know something is temporary, you cherish it more. When you hold something lightly, you can actually be more present with it because you are not worried about losing it. You are simply here with it now. And that presence, that ability to be fully here without grasping or fearing, that is love. That is connection. That is the only real security there is. The 12th and final practice the Stoics performed every night was the practice of connecting with something larger than themselves. For the ancient Stoics, this meant recognizing their place in the cosmic order, understanding that they were part of a rational, ordered universe governed by divine reason, what they called the Logos. Whether you share that specific belief or not, the principle remains powerful. You are not alone. You are not isolated. You are part of something much bigger than your individual concerns. And connecting with that bigger reality brings perspective, brings peace, brings a sense of meaning that transcends your personal struggles. Marcus Aurelius would often take a cosmic perspective in his evening reflections. He would imagine himself from above, seeing the whole earth, all of humanity, all of time. From that perspective, his problems seemed smaller, not unimportant, but properly sized. He was one person among billions, living one life among countless lives, experiencing challenges that countless others had experienced before and would experience again. This was not meant to make him feel insignificant. It was meant to free him from taking everything so personally, from believing that his specific struggles were uniquely terrible or unfair. Everyone struggles, everyone faces pain, everyone dies. This is the human condition, and recognizing that connected him to all of humanity made him feel part of the great flow of existence rather than isolated in his own suffering. This cosmic perspective also reminded him that he had a role to play, a contribution to make. He was not just a random collection of atoms stumbling through a meaningless existence. He was a part of the whole, and the whole needed him to play his part well. Just as a foot is part of a body and serves the body, he was part of humanity, part of nature, part of the cosmos, and his job was to serve that larger system through his virtue, his actions, his choices. This gave his life meaning. This gave his struggles purpose. He was not just suffering randomly. He was being shaped, tested, refined so that he could fulfill his role more effectively. Epictetus taught something similar. He said, "We are like actors in a play. We do not choose our role, but we can choose how well we play it." You might have been given a difficult role, a challenging life, circumstances that seem unfair, but that is your part to play. Your job is not to complain about the role or wish you had been given a different one. Your job is to play this role, your role, with excellence, with integrity, with courage. And when you do that, you honor the playwright, the universe, the divine order that assigned you this particular part. Tonight, practice this 12th and final discipline. Connect with something larger than yourself. It might be nature, the vast cosmos, humanity as a whole, a divine presence, a sense of interconnection with all living things. Whatever resonates with you, take a moment to feel yourself as part of it, not separate from it. You are not an isolated ego fighting alone. You are a thread in an enormous tapestry, a wave in an infinite ocean, a note in an eternal symphony. Your life matters, your choices matter, your character matters, not just to you, but to the whole. Feel that connection. Feel how it takes the pressure off. You are not responsible for everything. You are only responsible for playing your part well. You are not supposed to be perfect. You are only supposed to be sincere, to try, to grow, to contribute what you can. You are not alone in your struggles. Everyone who has ever lived has faced versions of what you face. You are part of that great human story, that eternal dance of growth and learning and becoming. And when you remember that, when you feel that, the weight lifts. Your problems do not disappear, but they become manageable. Your pain does not vanish, but it becomes meaningful. You understand that you are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you are meant to become. And with that understanding, with those 12 practices completed, you are ready for sleep. Not the restless, anxious sleep of someone running from their day, but the deep, peaceful sleep of someone who has done their inner work, who has examined their life, who has released what needed releasing, who has prepared for tomorrow while accepting they cannot control it, who has made peace with their mortality and their humanity, who has connected with virtue and with something larger than themselves. This is how the Stoics slept, and this is how they woke up unstoppable. Not because they had no problems, but because they had a practice. Not because they were superhuman, but because they were deeply human and had learned to work with that humanity rather than against it. Now that we have walked through all 12 practices, it is time to understand how they work together, how they create a transformation that goes beyond any single technique. Because the power of these practices is not just in doing them individually. The power is in the cumulative effect, in how they reshape your mind over time, in how they build a character that is resilient, wise, courageous, and free. Think of these practices as 12 threads that together weave a rope strong enough to pull you out of any pit, to anchor you in any storm, to connect you to the highest version of yourself, even when everything around you is falling apart. The evening review, negative visualization, and gratitude work together to help you learn from the past without being trapped by it. You look back, but you do not get stuck there. You acknowledge what happened, you extract the lessons and the gifts, and then you move forward. This prevents you from endlessly ruminating, from carrying yesterday's mistakes into today's opportunities, from being so focused on what went wrong that you cannot see what is going right. These 3 practices teach you that everything is data, everything is useful, everything can contribute to your growth if you are willing to look at it with honesty and wisdom. The practices of premeditatio malorum and releasing control work together to prepare you for adversity while not being paralyzed by it. You think ahead, you anticipate challenges, you rehearse your response, but then you let go of the outcome. You plan, but you do not obsess. You prepare, but you do not worry. You do what you can, and then you trust that you will be able to handle whatever actually happens, because you have already proven to yourself that you can imagine the worst and not fall apart. This combination creates what psychologists call stress inoculation. By exposing yourself to difficulty in your imagination, you build resilience. And by releasing control over outcomes, you free yourself to focus on process, on effort, on virtue. The remembering of mortality and the cultivation of amor fati work together to help you embrace life fully. When you remember you will die, you stop postponing what matters. When you love your fate, you stop resisting what is. Together, these practices create a profound yes to existence. Yes to the joy and yes to the pain. Yes to the easy and yes to the difficult. Yes to all of it, because all of it is your life, and your life is precious exactly as it is, not as you wish it were. This yes does not mean passive acceptance. It means active engagement. It means showing up fully, meeting whatever comes with presence and courage, extracting every drop of meaning and growth from every experience. The focus on virtue as the ultimate good works with the practice of letting go of resentment and attachment to create internal freedom. When your sense of worth and success is based on your character rather than external circumstances, you cannot be defeated by circumstances. You can lose everything external and still be okay, because what matters most cannot be taken from you. And when you release resentment and loosen your attachments, you free up enormous energy that was being wasted on resistance and clinging. That energy is now available for growth, for presence, for acting with virtue in the world. The voluntary simplicity and examination of attachments works with the cosmic perspective to right-size your life. You see what truly matters, what is essential, and you focus there. Everything else becomes negotiable, expendable, not worth fighting over. This does not mean you do not care about things. It means you care about the right things in the right way. You care about your character, your relationships, your contribution, your growth. You hold material possessions and external status lightly. You see yourself as part of a larger whole, and you measure your life not by what you accumulate, but by how well you play your part, how much you grow, how genuinely you love. The preparation for tomorrow works with all of the other practices to help you be proactive rather than reactive. You are not just stumbling through life hoping for the best. You are consciously choosing who you want to be and then taking action to become that person. You are setting intentions, making commitments, building habits, creating systems that support your highest self. And each night, you review how you did, you adjust, you recommit. This is not about perfection. This is about direction. Are you moving toward virtue or away from it? Are you becoming more free or more enslaved? Are you growing or stagnating? The nightly practices keep you honest, keep you accountable to yourself, keep you on the path. When you do these 12 practices consistently, something remarkable happens. Your relationship with yourself begins to change. You stop being your own worst enemy and become your own wisest friend. You stop judging yourself harshly and start guiding yourself compassionately. You stop expecting yourself to be perfect and start appreciating yourself for trying, for showing up, for doing the work even when it is hard. You develop what the Stoics called self-respect, not based on achievement or comparison, but based on integrity, on the knowledge that you are living according to your values, that you are making genuine effort to grow and contribute. Your relationship with others changes too. When you release resentment and stop trying to control people, your relationships become lighter, easier, more genuine. When you focus on your own virtue rather than others' faults, you become more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. When you remember that everyone is fighting their own battle, carrying their own pain, doing the best they can with what they know, you become more forgiving, more generous in your interpretations, more willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. This does not mean you become a doormat. It means you become secure enough in yourself that you do not need to control or change others. You can simply be with them, appreciate them, let them be who they are while you focus on being who you want to be. Your relationship with life itself transforms. Instead of seeing life as something that happens to you, something you have to endure or fight against, you begin to see it as something you participate in, co-create, dance with. You stop being a victim and become a protagonist. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with the conditions you have. You stop complaining about the hand you were dealt and start playing it as well as you can. This shift in perspective is subtle but profound. It changes everything, because when you see yourself as an active participant rather than a passive victim, you find agency, you find power, you find possibility even in difficulty. And perhaps most importantly, your relationship with difficulty changes. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles to your happiness, you begin to see them as opportunities for growth. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of trying to avoid all discomfort, you start recognizing that discomfort is where growth happens, where character is built, where you discover what you are truly made of. You do not seek out suffering, but when it comes, you do not collapse. You meet it, you work with it, you let it refine you. This is what the Stoics meant by turning obstacles into fuel. Every difficulty you face, if you respond to it with virtue, makes you stronger. Every challenge you overcome builds your confidence that you can overcome the next one. Every time you choose courage over fear, wisdom over reactivity, temperance over impulse, justice over selfishness, you are strengthening those qualities in yourself. You are literally rewiring your brain, creating new neural pathways, building new habits, becoming a new person. And over time, the person you become is someone who cannot be stopped. Not because nothing gets in your way, but because everything that gets in your way becomes a stepping stone. Let us talk about what this transformation actually looks like in real life, because these practices are not just abstract philosophy. They have concrete effects on how you move through the world, how you handle stress, how you make decisions, how you show up for yourself and others. When you practice these 12 disciplines night after night, you begin to notice changes. Some are immediate, some take time, but all are powerful. You begin to notice that you sleep better. This is not accidental. When you do the inner work before bed, when you release resentment and worry, when you review your day and set your intentions, when you make peace with yourself and your life, your mind quiets. The rumination stops. The anxiety lessens. You are no longer lying awake running through everything you did wrong or everything that might go wrong. You have already processed the day. You have already prepared for tomorrow. There is nothing left to do but rest. And so you rest deeply, fully, in a way you might not have rested in years. And when you sleep better, everything else improves. You have more energy. Your mood stabilizes. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your patience increases. Your physical health improves. Sleep is the foundation of everything, and the Stoic practices give you that foundation. But beyond just sleeping better, you begin to notice that you wake up differently. Instead of waking up dreading the day, hitting snooze repeatedly, dragging yourself out of bed feeling already defeated, you wake up with a sense of purpose. You remember your intentions. You remember who you decided to be today. You remember that you have already anticipated challenges and prepared yourself to meet them with virtue. You wake up ready, not because the day will be easy, but because you are capable of meeting whatever it brings. You begin to notice that you are more present during the day. The practice of releasing control and focusing on what matters translates into moment-by-moment awareness. You are not constantly lost in thought, worrying about the future or rehashing the past. You are here now, with whatever you are doing, whoever you are with. This presence makes you more effective at everything. You make fewer mistakes because you are paying attention. You have better conversations because you are actually listening. You enjoy pleasures more fully because you are not distracted. You handle difficulties more skillfully because you see them clearly rather than through the fog of anxiety or resentment. You begin to notice that you are more resilient. When something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, you do not fall apart. You pause, you breathe, you remember your training, you ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, what action should I take? If no, what is my response? You have practiced this, you have rehearsed this. So even though you might feel fear or disappointment or frustration, you do not get swept away by those feelings. You feel them, you acknowledge them, and then you choose your response based on your values rather than your emotions. This resilience is not about being hard or unfeeling. It is about being flexible, adaptive, capable of bending without breaking. You begin to notice that your relationships improve. When you stop trying to control others, when you release resentment quickly, when you approach people with compassion born from remembering that everyone is struggling with something, your interactions become easier, warmer, more genuine. People sense that you are not judging them, not trying to change them, not keeping score. They relax around you, they trust you, they open up to you. And because you are working on your own character rather than focusing on their faults, you show up as a better partner, friend, colleague, parent. You listen better, you are more patient, you are more reliable, you keep your word because you value your integrity more than your convenience. You begin to notice that you are more productive, but in a different way. You are not just busy, not just checking things off a list. You are focused on what truly matters. You have clarity about your priorities because you examine them regularly. You know what you value, what you are working toward, what kind of person you want to be. And so you say no to the things that do not serve those priorities. You protect your time and energy for what is essential. You do not waste yourself on trivia, on trying to please everyone, on projects that do not align with your values. This makes you incredibly effective. You do less, but what you do matters more. You accomplish things that are actually meaningful to you rather than things you think you are supposed to do. You begin to notice that your self-talk changes. That harsh inner critic that used to berate you for every mistake starts to quiet down, not because you have become perfect, but because you have become compassionate with yourself. You recognize that you are human, that mistakes are part of learning, that every day is a new opportunity to try again. You talk to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend, with kindness, with encouragement, with honesty, but without cruelty. This shift in self-talk is profound because that voice is with you always. If it is harsh and critical, you live in constant judgment. If it is wise and compassionate, you live in constant support. The Stoic practices train you to be your own best ally rather than your own worst enemy. You begin to notice that you feel more free. This is hard to describe if you have not experienced it, but it is perhaps the most significant transformation of all. You feel less trapped by circumstances, less controlled by other people's opinions, less enslaved by your own desires and fears. You realize that you have choice, real choice, not about what happens to you, but about who you are in response to what happens. And that choice, that internal freedom, is more valuable than any external freedom. You can be free even in constraint. You can be at peace even in chaos. You can be strong even in vulnerability, because your freedom does not depend on circumstances. It depends on your character, your virtue, your commitment to living according to your values. And that is always available to you. You begin to notice that you are more grateful, not in a forced way, but genuinely, because you have practiced seeing the value in everything, even in difficulty, because you regularly contemplate loss, and so you appreciate what you have while you have it, because you remember your mortality, and so you do not take today for granted. This gratitude is not about being happy all the time or pretending everything is great. It is about recognizing that even in struggle, even in pain, there is something valuable happening. You are alive, you are learning, you are growing, you are here, and that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. You begin to notice that you have more courage, not because fear disappears, but because you have learned that you can act despite fear. You have proven to yourself, night after night, that you can face difficulty in your imagination and not be destroyed. So when you face difficulty in reality, you are less shocked, less paralyzed. You know you can handle it. You have handled hard things before. You will handle this too. This courage builds over time. Each time you do something that scares you and survive it, you become a little braver. Each time you face a fear and realize it was not as terrible as you imagined, you become a little more willing to take risks, to try new things, to step outside your comfort zone. And this is where growth happens, where life happens, in that space just beyond comfort. You begin to notice that you feel more connected to something larger than yourself. Whether you think of it as nature, humanity, the universe, or the divine, you feel yourself as part of something, not separate from it. This gives your life meaning beyond your personal concerns. You're not just trying to be comfortable or successful or admired. You are trying to play your part well, to contribute something, to live in a way that honors the larger whole of which you are a part. This sense of connection and purpose carries you through times when personal motivation flags. Even when you do not feel like trying, even when you are tired or discouraged, you remember that you are part of something bigger, that your actions matter, that you have a role to play, and so you keep going. These transformations do not happen overnight. The Stoics knew this. They did not expect to become sages after a week of practice. They understood that character is built over a lifetime, through consistent effort, through daily practice, through returning to the disciplines again and again, even when they are difficult, even when you do not feel like it, even when you fall short. The goal is not perfection. The goal is direction. Are you moving, however slowly, toward the person you want to be? Are you growing, however incrementally, in wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance? If yes, then you are succeeding. You are doing what the Stoics did. You are walking the path. But let us be honest. Maintaining these practices is not always easy. There will be nights when you do not want to do the work, when you just want to zone out, escape, avoid. There will be times when the practices themselves feel burdensome rather than liberating, when you question whether they are worth the effort, when you are tempted to give up and go back to your old patterns. This is normal, this is human, and the Stoics faced it too. So let us talk about the obstacles you will encounter in maintaining these 12 practices and how to overcome them, because knowing what to expect and having strategies to deal with it is what will allow you to persist, to keep practicing even when it is hard, to make these disciplines not just something you do for a while, but a way of life. The first obstacle is simple fatigue. Some nights you will be so tired that the thought of doing a review, of practicing gratitude, of examining your virtue will feel like too much. You will just want to close your eyes and sleep. This is understandable. Life is exhausting, so what do? The Stoic answer is not to force yourself through the entire rigorous practice every single night. The Stoic answer is to do something, even if it is small. Maybe tonight you do not have energy for a full review, but you can take one breath and think of one thing you are grateful for. Maybe you cannot do a full negative visualization, but you can spend 10 seconds remembering that nothing lasts forever. The key is not perfection. The key is consistency, even if that consistency is sometimes minimal. Think of it like physical exercise. Some days you go to the gym and have an amazing workout. Some days you go and just do the minimum, but you still went. You kept the habit alive. You did not break the chain. The same applies here. Some nights your practice will be deep and thorough. Some nights it will be brief and simple. Both count. Both matter. What does not work is saying, I'm too tired to do it properly, so I will just skip it entirely. Because if you skip it when you are tired, and you are often tired, then you will rarely do it. Better to do it imperfectly than not at all. Better to spend 2 minutes than 0 minutes. Better to keep the connection, keep the awareness, keep the intention alive even in a small way than to let it go completely. The second obstacle is doubt. You will have nights when you question whether any of this matters, whether these ancient practices have any relevance to your modern life, whether you are actually changing or just fooling yourself. This doubt is insidious because it can make you give up right when you are on the verge of a breakthrough. Often, the darkest hour is just before the dawn. Often, doubt arises precisely because you are changing and the old patterns are fighting to survive. Your ego, your familiar self, does not want to transform. Transformation is uncomfortable, so it whispers doubts. It says, this is not working, this is a waste of time, you are not getting anywhere, you might as well stop. When doubt arises, the Stoic response is not to argue with it or suppress it. The response is to examine it. Where is this doubt coming from? Is it based on evidence or just on feeling? Are you actually making no progress, or are you making slow progress and expecting faster results? Are these practices actually useless, or are you just tired or discouraged today? Usually, when you examine doubt honestly, you find that it is not based on reality. It is based on impatience, on unrealistic expectations, on temporary emotional states. And once you see that, the doubt loses its power. You can say, yes, I see this doubt, I acknowledge it, but I am going to continue practicing anyway, because I have committed to this path and I trust the wisdom of those who walked it before me. If you need evidence that the practices are working, look for it. Look at your life now compared to when you started. Are you sleeping a little better? Are you handling stress a little more effectively? Are you a little more patient, a little more present, a little more at peace? If yes, even if the changes are small, then the practices are working. Keep going. Trust the process. The Stoics practiced for decades, for entire lifetimes. They did not expect immediate transformation. They trusted that consistent effort over time would compound, would accumulate, would eventually produce significant change. And it did. And it will for you too if you persist. The third obstacle is distraction. We live in a world designed to grab and hold our attention. There are always notifications, messages, shows to watch, articles to read, endless ways to fill the time before sleep with anything except inner work. And it is easy to let these distractions take over, to tell yourself you will do the practices after you check just one more thing, and then one more, and then suddenly it is late and you are too tired. This is perhaps the most common obstacle in modern life, not lack of desire to practice, but lack of protection of the time and space to practice. The Stoic solution is to create structure, to ritualize the practices so they happen automatically rather than requiring constant willpower. Decide on a specific time for your evening practices. Maybe it is right after you brush your teeth. Maybe it is as soon as you lie down in bed. Maybe it is during a specific quiet time you carve out before bed. Whatever it is, make it consistent. Same time, same place if possible, same sequence of practices. This removes the decision fatigue. You do not have to decide every night whether to practice or when to practice. It is just what you do at this time. It is your ritual, your sacred time, your appointment with yourself that you do not break. Also protect this time. Turn off your devices, or at least put them away. Let people know you are not available during this time. Treat it as important because it is. This is the time when you do the most important work you can do, the work of becoming who you want to be. Everything else can wait. The emails can wait. The shows can wait. The scrolling can wait. This cannot wait, or rather, it can wait. But if it always waits, it never happens. So prioritize it, guard it, honor it. And over time, this protected time will become your favorite part of the day, the time when you reconnect with yourself, when you remember what matters, when you realign with your values and intentions. The fourth obstacle is setback. You will have days when you fail spectacularly at living according to Stoic principles. You will lose your temper, or act selfishly, or wallow in self-pity, or let fear control you. And then, when evening comes, you might feel so bad about your failure that you do not want to do the practices. You do not want to review a day that went so poorly. You do not want to face your mistakes. You just want to forget about it and hope tomorrow is better. But this is precisely when the practices are most important. This is when you most need them. The Stoic view of setbacks is that they are inevitable and valuable. Of course, you will fail sometimes. You are human. You are learning. You are breaking old patterns and building new ones, and that process is messy. What matters is not whether you fail, but what you do after you fail. Do you give up? Do you spiral into shame and self-hatred? Or do you look at it honestly, learn from it, and recommit to doing better? The evening practices give you a structure for doing the latter. When you review a difficult day, you are not doing it to punish yourself. You are doing it to understand what triggered you, what were you feeling, what need were you trying to meet in an unskillful way, what could you do differently next time. This is how you turn failure into growth, not by ignoring it or wallowing in it, but by examining it with compassion and curiosity, extracting the lesson and then moving forward. Seneca wrote that we are not perfect, we never will be, and that is okay. What we can do is get a little better every day, make a little progress, stumble a little less often, and that is enough. That is the path. So when you have a bad day, do not skip your practices. Do them. Face what happened. Forgive yourself. Learn. Recommit. And then sleep, knowing that tomorrow is a new beginning, another chance, a fresh opportunity to practice your virtue. The fifth obstacle is loneliness on the path. Most people around you will not be doing these practices. Most people will think you are strange for caring so much about virtue and character and inner work. Most people are focused on external things, success, pleasure, approval, accumulation. And when you are focused on something different, you can feel isolated, unsupported, misunderstood. You might wonder if you are wasting your time on things that do not matter to anyone but you. This is one of the hardest obstacles because humans are social creatures. We want to belong. We want to be understood. We want companionship on the journey. The Stoic answer to this is twofold. First, remember that you are not actually alone. You are walking a path that countless wise people have walked before you. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they are with you in spirit. Their wisdom is with you. Every time you practice, you join a lineage of people who valued the same things you value, who struggled with the same things you struggle with, who persisted despite the same obstacles you face. You are part of that lineage now. Feel that connection. Draw strength from it. You are not the first person to walk this path, and you will not be the last. Second, seek community where you can. There are others on this path, perhaps more than you realize. Look for them. Join groups, online or in person, where people discuss Stoicism and personal growth. Read books by people on similar journeys. Listen to talks, watch videos, engage with the material. You might not have in-person daily support, but you can create a sense of community through these connections. And remember, quality matters more than quantity. You do not need everyone to understand. You just need a few people, maybe even just one person who gets it, who supports you, who is also working on themselves. Find those people, cherish them, be that person for others. And now we come to the end of this journey through the 12 Stoic practices, but really, this is not an end at all. This is a beginning, because knowing about these practices is worthless if you do not do them. Reading about them is interesting, but it does not change you. What changes you is practice, actual practice, night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year. This is not a quick fix. This is not a life hack. This is a way of life. This is a commitment to your own growth, to your own character, to becoming the kind of person who cannot be stopped by circumstances because you have built something inside that no circumstance can touch. So tonight, when you finish listening to this, you have a choice. You can treat this as interesting information, something you heard once, something that sounded nice but that you do not actually apply. Or you can start. You can begin your practice tonight. You do not have to do all 12 practices perfectly. You do not have to do them all at once. Start with one. Start with the evening review. Just before you sleep, take 2 minutes and ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I stumble? What can I learn? That is all. Just start there. And then, when that becomes natural, add another practice. Maybe add gratitude. What am I grateful for today? Both the obvious blessings and the hidden ones. And then add another and another at your own pace, building your practice gradually, making it sustainable, making it yours. Because these 12 practices are not rigid rules, they are principles that you can adapt to your life, to your situation, to your needs. The Stoics were practical. They did not demand perfection. They demanded sincerity, effort, commitment to growth. That is what they ask of you. Not that you be perfect, but that you try, genuinely try, to become better, to grow in wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. That you use each night as an opportunity to reflect, release, prepare, and reconnect with what matters most. And as you practice, you will begin to notice the changes we talked about. Better sleep, more presence, greater resilience, improved relationships, increased productivity on what matters, kinder self-talk, more freedom, deeper gratitude, expanded courage, stronger sense of purpose. These are not fantasies. These are the natural results of doing the inner work consistently. This is what the Stoics discovered, and this is what you will discover too if you walk this path with sincerity and persistence. But let us talk about what unstoppable really means, because it is not what you might think. Being unstoppable does not mean you never stop, never rest, never feel tired or discouraged or afraid. Being unstoppable does not mean you achieve every goal or never face defeat. Being unstoppable means that no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles arise, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you keep getting back up, you keep trying, you keep growing. You do not quit on yourself, you do not abandon your values, you do not surrender to bitterness or despair or cynicism. You keep showing up. Keep doing your best. Keep choosing virtue even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. This is the kind of unstoppable the Stoics embodied. Marcus Aurelius faced war, plague, betrayal, the deaths of children, constant political intrigue, immense pressure, and yet he kept showing up, kept doing his duty, kept trying to be a good man and a good emperor. He did not always succeed. He made mistakes. He struggled. He had moments of weakness and doubt, but he never gave up. He practiced his disciplines every day. He returned to his principles every night. He kept working on himself until the very end of his life. That is unstoppable. Epictetus was born a slave, suffered physical abuse, lived with disability, and yet he became one of the greatest teachers of freedom the world has ever known. Not because he changed his circumstances, but because he changed himself. He could not control his external situation, but he absolutely mastered his internal one. He developed a mind so free, so resilient, so wise, that no external constraint could touch it, and he taught others how to do the same. He kept teaching until he died, sharing what he had learned, helping others find their own freedom. That is unstoppable. Seneca lived in one of the most dangerous times in Roman history, under emperors who were paranoid and cruel. He was exiled, then recalled. He was wealthy, then at risk of losing everything. He was honoured, then condemned. His life was uncertain, unstable, dangerous, and yet he kept writing, kept teaching, kept practicing philosophy. He wrote letters full of wisdom and compassion. He tried to influence his student, the Emperor Nero, toward goodness, though ultimately he failed. And when he was finally ordered to take his own life, he faced death with courage and dignity, practicing what he had taught. That is unstoppable. You do not have to face the extremes that these men faced, but you will face your own challenges, your own losses, your own fears, your own moments of despair. And in those moments, you have a choice. Will you give up? Will you let circumstances defeat you? Will you abandon what you know is right because it is too hard to keep trying? Or will you remember these practices? Will you return to your disciplines? Will you reconnect with your values and choose to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep being the person you committed to being regardless of how you feel or what is happening around you? That is the choice the Stoics made every single night. They renewed their commitment. They realigned with their values. They prepared themselves to face another day with courage and wisdom. And this is the choice you can make tonight and tomorrow night and every night for the rest of your life. This is how you become unstoppable, not through one grand gesture, but through 10,000 small ones, not through perfection, but through persistence, not through having no problems, but through refusing to let problems define you or defeat you. As you lie here now, feeling the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath, the quietness of the night around you, know that you have everything you need to begin this journey. You do not need special circumstances. You do not need more time or more resources or more support. You just need willingness to look at yourself honestly, willingness to do the inner work, willingness to keep trying even when you stumble, willingness to believe that you can grow, that you can change, that you can become the person you want to be. The 12 practices are your tools. The evening is your workshop, your life is your material, and your character is what you are building night after night, choice after choice, practice after practice. You are not building something external that others can see and measure and judge. You are building something internal, invisible, but absolutely real. You are building integrity. You are building resilience. You are building wisdom. You are building freedom. You are building a self that you can be proud of, a self that you can trust, a self that you can rely on no matter what happens. This is the Stoic path. This is the way of the wise. And it is available to you starting tonight. So make the commitment. Not a vague wish or a hopeful intention, but a real commitment. Tell yourself, I will practice. I will do the work. I will examine my days, cultivate gratitude, face my fears, release what I cannot control, remember my mortality, pursue virtue, forgive, simplify, prepare, and connect with something larger than myself. I will do this not perfectly, but sincerely, not because it is easy, but because it is worth it. Not for anyone else, but for myself, for my own growth, for my own peace, for my own transformation. And as you make this commitment, feel it settle into you. Feel how it gives you structure, purpose, direction. You are not just drifting through life anymore, hoping things work out. You are actively shaping your character, consciously choosing who you will become. You are taking responsibility for your own inner life, your own development, your own freedom. And that responsibility, rather than being a burden, is actually liberating, because it means you are no longer helpless, no longer at the mercy of circumstances or other people or random chance. You have agency, you have power. Not power over the world, but power over yourself. And that is the only power that truly matters. So sleep now, if sleep will come. Rest in the knowledge that you have done your inner work, that you have examined your day, that you have made peace with yourself and your life, that you have prepared for tomorrow while releasing your grip on outcomes. Rest knowing that you are on a path walked by the wisest people in history, a path that leads to freedom, resilience, and genuine peace. Rest knowing that when you wake, you will wake not as someone hoping to get through another day, but as someone ready to meet another day with courage, wisdom, and purpose. You will wake unstoppable, not because nothing can stop you, but because nothing can break you. Nothing can make you quit on yourself. Nothing can take away what truly matters. This is the promise of the Stoic practices. This is what they offer you. Not an easy life, but a meaningful one. Not a life without struggle, but a life where struggle becomes the forge in which your character is shaped. Not a life free from pain, but a life where pain can be transformed into wisdom. Not a life where you control everything, but a life where you are free regardless of what you cannot control. This is the life the Stoics lived, and this is the life you can live too, if you are willing to practice, to persist, to keep showing up for yourself night after night. So let this be your beginning. Let tonight be the first night of the rest of your life, a life consciously chosen, deliberately crafted, built on the foundation of ancient wisdom and daily practice. You have been given the tools. You know the practices. Now it is up to you. Will you use them? Will you walk this path? Will you commit to your own transformation? The choice is yours, and it always has been. Everything is up to you. Your thoughts, your responses, your growth, your character, your peace. All of it is in your hands, and that is not a burden. That is a gift. That is your freedom. That is your power. Use it well. Practice tonight. Practice tomorrow. Practice for the rest of your life. Become unstoppable.